We're going to use machine learning to make predictions using a random forest classifier. This is a grade book for 90 students in a fairly difficult class. Current grade is their current grade going into the midterm, how many hours they reported having studied for the midterm, the random die I rolled for each of them that has nothing to do with them at all, and the actual score they got on the midterm. Random forest classifiers are particularly useful if you want to use the value of one or more columns to predict another column. Note that it only works though if the data is actually correlated. Download and then CSV. Upload your CSV file. We're going to use pandas to load the CSV as a data frame. We're then going to use SciKiTlearn's test train split. 80% of it becomes training data, 20% of it becomes testing data. X are the features that you're using to make the prediction of the value of Y. What I have in X test is the randomly selected students, student 29, student 67, and so forth. And then what I have in Y test is the actual score they got on the midterm. From SciKiTlearn, import Random Forest Regressor. We're going to use X train and Y train in order to train the model. Having now trained the model, we're going to ask it what features it thought was important. As we probably could have guessed, the hours studied played the biggest factor in the performance on the midterm, with current grade also being fairly important. You'll see the dice roll isn't 0. It doesn't typically rule something out all the way to 0, but with more training, it would find more and more the dice roll is becoming irrelevant. We can use Seaborn to visualize this. Dice roll ended up being fairly dark. We're going to have our model make predictions on the X test value to produce the Y. You can kind of look over this and see that it's pretty close for most of them. The mean absolute error says on average we were off about 8.5 points. There's also the mean squared error. This just puts a little more weight in outliers. The R-squared score roughly gives you how accurate the model is. So in this case, it was about 61% accurate. For contrast, we could try to predict a dice roll. In this case, you'll notice the feature important couldn't really find any correlation. One thing that's important to note is random forest classifiers are not categorical. So when it makes a prediction, it's going to predict it with a float value. It's not going to predict integers. There are different tools that we can use for making categorical predictions. You also notice the R-squared score is only 14%. And that's how you can use a random forest classifier with machine learning in order to make predictions.